Good evening. It is Thursday, April 14th, and it's 6 p.m., and this is a business session meeting of the Board of Education. And with that, we'll call the meeting to order. And Brian, if you would please call the roll.
Mr. Bartz?
Here.
Mrs. Fiesel?
Here.
Mr. O'Brien?
I am here.
Mrs. Patrick?
Here.
And Mr. King?
Here. Thank you. And if you all please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And if we may have a motion to approve the agenda, do we have any alterations?
No, sir.
Okay,
So moved.
so moved in a second.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Bartz?
Yes.
Mrs. Patrick?
Yes.
Mrs. Fiesel?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
And Mr. King?
Yes, and the agenda is approved 5-0. So we have a presentation this evening, looking forward to that, about the Academy program. So if you please come forward and join us. Good evening.
Hi.
Okay. Hi, my name is Dawn Imbrogno, and I'm the program instructor for ACT. We are here this evening to tell you about the success of our program's first year, and I'm joined tonight by two of my students, Emma and Claire. ACT is located at Olentangy Academy and Lewis Center, along with three other programs: STEM, Mentorship, and Oasis. ACT is a program designed to help students prepare for life after graduation. Eligible students must have participated in Olentangy Specialized Learning Center high school programs, have met all academic requirements for graduation, and wish to participate in post-secondary community and job skills training. Students with the recommendation of their IEP teams can choose to defer their diplomas to attend ACT. Emma came from Orange High School, and so did Claire. The purpose for attending this program is different for each student. Some may be in the program for job exploration, to obtain the skills needed to get a job in the community, or to increase independence and improve skills performance that will increase their chances of being accepted into other post-secondary programs like the Career Center or Project Search. If we were all to find out that our country was headed towards a 75% unemployment rate, everyone would be outraged, but this is the unemployment rate for people with disabilities, and it is 90% for people with more significant disabilities. Our school district is definitely being proactive and innovative by providing these students with individualized training opportunities. I know our students will not become a part of this statistic. Our community has been very supportive of this program. Here are some of our current community partners that provide us with in-class as well as community-based job skills training. Here's a sample of our current schedule. Students are placed anywhere between 2 and 4 community work sites each week, depending on their goals. They spend half of their day in the classroom and half the day at community work sites. We reserve one afternoon per week to do other community transition-related activities. We actually did it today instead of Wednesday. We took a tour of the post office, we went out to lunch, and we toured an apartment of a former Olentangy grad who has her own apartment now. So it was a great real-world experience for everyone. We all learned a lot. Okay, I would like to introduce you to Emma. Come on over. I'm going to ask her a couple questions. First, Emma, why did you choose to come to ACT?
I wanted to learn more skills and explore different jobs.
What have you worked on this year?
I have worked on this year to make new friends, and I've tried different community jobs.
What are your plans for the future?
I have plans to return to ACT next school year to learn new job skills.
Very good. Thank you, Emma. All right. Now we have Claire. Same questions. What? Come on. Why did you choose to come to ACT?
I wanted to do more things in the community and learn life skills. I got to try a lot of jobs that have helped me decide what I like and don't like. I had an interview. I've been accepted to Project Search next school year.
That's right. So she has had many work sites this school year and decided she wanted to try Project Search. She had an interview and she was accepted, and she's very proud and very excited about that. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to share a quick slideshow with you about all our students and some of the great things we've been doing out in the community.
It might seem crazy what I'm about to say. Sunshine, she's here. You can take a break. I'm a hot air balloon that can go to space. With the air, like I don't care about the way. Because I'm clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Clap along if you feel like that's what you want. Hey. Take up bad news, talking this and that. Hey. Well, give it all you got and don't hold it back. Well, I should probably warn you, you'll be just fine. Get loose. Bitch, to you, don't waste your time. Because that clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Clap along if you feel like that's what you want. Here we go. Bring me down.
So thank you to the Board of Education, Olentangy administrators, faculty, staff, parents, community, and most importantly, the students that have made this first year so successful. We started small, but in just a couple years, our class size will most likely double. This program served a need to this population that was previously not being met, and we hope to continue providing specialized programming to our transition age population to ensure that they're being provided with the tools they need to reach their employment goals and become productive members of society. So I'm very fortunate to be a part of this special team, and if you have any questions about our program, don't hesitate to contact us, and thank you for your time. Do you have any questions?
Did you used to be at Liberty?
I was.
Okay.
9 years, yes. Thank you.
How many students do you anticipate in the program for next year?
So currently we have 7. We have 3 moving on, and I'm taking, I think, 3.5 new, so yeah.
Good.
Yeah. So it's going really well. It's going
Good.
great.
I think one important message came from the voters on March 15th, when they recognized the value of programs like this
Sure.
and allow the district to go ahead with purchasing the academy building,
Right.
which will allow even better efficiency and long-term planning. So the community spoke how important your program is.
We've been just encouraged and accepted by everyone, and they want to see more, and we're up for the challenge. It's been great.
If you ever want to
Thank you.
visit in the mornings, they run a coffee bar too, so
We
they do a
do.
great job with the coffee.
$1.50,
Oh, right.
yes.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, girls.
Thank you, Doris. I have 2 items under the board president's report. Number 1, of course, in regard to the levy, if I may read this, for those of you who might recognize, I'm just going to read the letter I wrote to the newspapers and thanking the community after the election. And I thought, why not just read that letter to the whole group? We extend our gratitude to the Olentangy Schools community for the support of the crucial May 15th levy and bond request. We are fortunate to be residents of a community that places a high value on education, and as I just mentioned, programs like this program. The outstanding support and effort of so many grassroots individuals and groups was such an important component to the successful outcome. We are thankful to them for providing essential information that told the Olentangy story so well. We appreciate the trust and confidence in Olentangy Schools, its staff, the volunteers, our students, and our families. And of course, we will continue to efficiently manage growth and our finances, seek fairness and funding from the state of Ohio, and provide excellence in academics and opportunities for all of our students. So again, on behalf of the board, thank you very much to the community. My second item, it's nice to see one of the board members of the Olentangy Education Foundation meeting group this evening. The Olentangy Education Foundation just had its recent on March 12th. Really big month in March for Olentangy schools. Their Spirit of Community Night, and I underline the word community, because it in fact does speak to the fact that we are a community of 19,000 plus students and their families. There was a record attendance this year with around 400 in attendance, and also a record net income of around $30,000 this year. And of course, as you know, that goes right back into our schools to support scholarships and teacher grants. So extremely successful night. I have it on my calendar for next year already, and I would hope that everybody would do likewise. It was really a lot of fun. Really enjoyed it. So that's my report. Any comments? Does anybody want to add anything?
What is the date for next year, do you know?
Well, we know we're working out with Easter break or spring break and the sports teams and trying to find that magic Saturday evening.
Good.
So it's not settled yet, but it will be March.
Okay. And I want everyone to know I won a purse this year.
Yes.
Did you?
I did. It would have matched my outfit. But yeah, I was
Should have
real
brought it.
excited.
That's right. Anything else? And Mr. Rafe, if you would, please.
Things are working out. I'm going to be quick today since we have quite a few items on the agenda, but I want to echo Mr. King's sentiment about thank you to the community for the support. Brian and I did close to 170 community engagement events. It was a great opportunity to get our word out, and the outpouring of support and the proof at the ballot was certainly well deserved. So we have a National Geographic Spelling Bee winner there from Orange Middle School, Saquette. He's going to be competing here soon in the national championship. So congratulations to Saquette for moving on in that competition. Amanda Ba, Orange High School senior, was recently honored by the U.S. Congressional Art Competition winner, and her work is going to hang in the U.S. Capitol. Our Spring Arts Festivals, I'm sure I have a slide on this later on, but a good segue to that right now is that the Spring Arts Festivals will be occurring at all three high schools on Sunday, and if you have a chance to make it out, it's just incredible the work our student artists produce. Mia Raines is a fourth grader at Johnny K. Corners Elementary School, and this isn't a school activity, but she placed second in the National Drive, Chip, and Putt National Finals. I've already recruited her for my OEF team. I kicked
Yes.
Dr. Lucas off. Dr. Lucas he's gotten kicked off our team next year for the OEF golf outing.
To watch this was incredible.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, she is truly incredible. But she finished second. She actually won the putting competition, finished second in the driving, and I don't know, I'm not sure, 8 out of 10 in the chipping contest, but she's really good. So congratulations to Mia. Again, as Mr. King mentioned, the OEF Spirit of Community Night was just a wonderful event. I strongly encourage everybody in the community to get out and attend that event. It's just nice to see everybody together from all three school communities, and you know, I think everybody who attends truly has a great time, and for a $25 cost of admission, it's a great night. So, Mr. King represented us at the second annual One Community Diversity Conference. It was broken up into 2 sessions this year. The second conference was second night of that conference was at April 6th, so over at Olentangy High, and he got to attend that. That was, again, we got very positive feedback from all who attended the Community Diversity Conference. It's been very well received. We put those on now 2 years in a row and plan to continue our efforts in that area. Some discussion items of note here. We'll be talking on the calendar. Randy's going to present for approval the 2017-18 district calendar. Jack will be giving you a first reading of our board policy updates. So, and then Jeff has got a update on what we're going to be doing this summer, the summer permanent improvement projects. And then Bruce Runyon and I will be talking about what's going to happen now that we've passed the bond issue to build the 4th high school and where we are in that process. A couple of agenda items that are of note. We have 2 new principals joining the district from outside the district. Peter Stern will be coming to us from Virginia, and Brandy Worth from New Jersey. So had great applicants. Both of them will be relocating to the district. So that's, Brandy actually has already moved here. Husband took a job for NetJets. Yeah, so he'll, so they already moved into the Orange district. So the calendar will be is obviously on the agenda for approval. The landscape services contract we approve every year to do all of the major work on beds and beautifying the grounds. And then High School 4 project contracts for Fanning Howey and construction analysis are on the agenda for approval. So a couple more important dates coming up. Our board business session and student and community recognition night will be our next board meeting, April 28th at Olentangy High School. And then we'll move into the library for our regular meeting after we do the student recognition in the auditorium. So that's it for me. Any questions?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
That's why this is here. I forgot about that. The senior nights.
Treasurer's report, Brian.
Yes, just a few things on the agenda this evening. It's the usuals between the minutes, the financials, donations, and issuance of bonds, where he talked about the bond issue. I'll talk with Mr. Rafe and Mr. Runyon a little more detail about that resolution, but kind of that process. So some of just the financial information will be, as mentioned before, our real estate tax collections came in pretty good this year. We were about $2.3 million over what we had projected, about 1.8%. Of course, that'll be factored into our 5-year forecast, which we'll do the first presentation, reading, or whatever you want to call it, on April 28th also, for approval on May 19th. Our Finance and Audit Committee meeting is scheduled for April 27th at 6:30. So the review.
the night before?
Night before, yeah. Schedule, we try to usually have it a little earlier than that, but just the way the schedule kind of worked out and stuff. So we'll go over the assumptions in the forecast, and if there's anything major, by the time we'll change in between that first reading and the second reading, and we'll update the board on the second reading if the Finance and Audit Committee has any
And before the,
recommendations.
I'm sorry,
What's that?
I didn't mean to interrupt, sorry.
Go ahead.
Before the meeting, your committee meeting, you will have already sent it out to everybody to
Yep.
review ahead of time.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, they'll have a week to review it and stuff like that. So hopefully, if anything new, they'll let us know before that. So that's it for. Let's talk about donations a little bit. We had quite a few this time. The big winners here are Freedom Trail, the PTO. They're almost 10,000 in Chromebooks. Johnny Cakes also, they had about almost 10,000 in technology purchases. So as we finish out the year, lots of times groups just do it all in kind of one, have their donations approved. So you see a lot of the PTOs present their stuff for recommendation for approval. So we're very appreciative, as always, of our PTOs and our booster groups out there, our community members. So that's all I have. Any questions?
Okay, thank you, Brian.
Yep.
And public participation number 1 for general comments, do we have any?
There is none.
Okay. And then we have our discussion items. So the first one, Mr. Wright, would be the calendar, 17-18.
Good evening, everyone. You have in your packets tonight Exhibit C1, which is what we are proposing for the district calendar for 2017-18. Reminder, when we presented this originally, early February, we collected information that went through March 13th. At that time, we closed down community feedback. We had 174 responses from individuals who tagged themselves as community. And for the first time, we collected staff information in the same mechanism, and we had 37 staff members provide feedback. Just kind of a comparison, when we had the same conversation last August and September, we had over almost 750 comments from our community. So, it's a big drop-off here as we shared this information. Most common comment echoed what we dealt with last fall, which was later start time, later release time. We're very happy with our model as we look at it, but we appreciate that feedback. We had about just over 60 comments addressing the start and ending times. We did have one that came up. The next most common was we had over 40 comments about winter break being shortened. We're down to like 13 or 14 days, or I'm sorry, 12 or 13 days. And we have a staggered start back for staff and students. As we look at it, we had some rationale behind it, so we did not feel at this time that we wanted to make a change. And of those 44 comments, almost half of them were from our teaching staff who wanted a longer winter break. But we had in our comments as well, we had a lot of community members who did the feedback say they're happier with a shorter break because of work schedules, and if their kids are staying home for an extra week, they're already back at school. So they were very happy as we looked at what we were trying to do. The rest, one was the next most common. 34 people said that they're very happy with the calendar as presented, and then there were pockets of comments throughout. So we did not feel it necessary to make any changes. We appreciate the feedback, and it's information that we'll continue to gather. And as we take on the next step of doing the 18-19 calendar late this year, early next year, then it'll be something we revisit with the information we've gathered these last two times. So that's the information. I'll entertain any questions.
I know we've all been invited to graduation this year, which is on May 15th. Can you tell us if we have a date for this 2017-18 school year?
We do. Actually, it will be our first year. We've needed to move away from the fairgrounds due to Rock on the Range. So this will be the first time we are with the Schottenstein Center at Ohio State, and it will be May 20th is our scheduled commencement date for 2018.
And all three back-to-back?
Yes.
With about the same time, like 10?
Actually, they feel they can turn us in and out a lot more quickly.
Oh, okay.
They think they can get everybody out, and every way they're staging things with about an hour and a half turnover versus the
Which is
the 2
nice
hours
for
we're
us,
working.
who are there all day.
Yeah. And then as we move further down the road and we bring on high school 4 and a 4th commencement, they have no concerns of being able to take care of all 4 ceremonies in one day.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Guess not.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Randy.
Thank you.
So we'll have 4 graduations, but not until 2020? Right, 18, 19 will be the first year, no seniors?
Yeah.
So 2020 will be the first, 4th graduation.
Welcome, Mr. Fetty.
Hey, good evening. I've got a first reading of board policy updates. All of the policies were provided to you in your supplemental materials. We'll come back at the next business meeting to do a second reading. The policy committee met on March 11th to discuss and review the updates that have been presented to you. We welcomed 3 new members to the policy committee, including Mrs. Patrick, so it was great to have some additional help on the policy committee. Of note, 2460.03 is a new policy for independent educational evaluations, which is formalizing practices that have always been done regarding independent evaluations in the special ed world. We've also done a thorough review of all of our district background check policies to make sure that all of the language is consistent, because there are many types of background checks and purposes for each. So Mr. Meyer went through all of those to make sure that they were consistent with saying what we mean and meaning what we say. And then also the Edgar policies are from the U.S. Department of Education. They're required for us to adopt because we do receive some federal funds. It's policy from the feds that say if you're using federal dollars, you have to have this language in your policy to comply with it, about mostly related to ethics of the people using the money and how the money gets spent. Any questions on any of the policies that I highlighted, or anything else that's included? If anything comes up between now and the next meeting, please feel free to email or call. Be glad to get you any answers. And I'll be back at the next meeting for the approval. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jack. And Mr. Gordon, Jeff, if you would please, about the summer projects.
This list will look very familiar, as we presented in October a list of projects we'd be doing this summer, along with our projections for the next 5 years based on our PI levy and how we'd expend those funds as we move forward. So the list you see here for 2016 is very similar, and changes that we have are noted at the bottom, and they're really minimal number of changes. And that is, we had replacement of the tracks listed for 2 tracks. After getting through the winter and examining the tracks and seeing the condition, they're in good enough shape that we're able to go through and put a top coat on that. Normally with the track, you can top coat that once, install it, top coat it once, and then you have to scrape it down when you come back a third time and do that. So both tracks we've chosen have only been down once, the original installation, so we can top coat those as long as the base is holding up, and at this time the base appears to be holding up. So we lowered the projected cost for the tracks down to $50,000 each, and the other difference there was we had listed Orange Middle School's track, and again, every year in the spring we go take a look at the tracks and try to get condition, and Hyatt's track is actually in a little more use and wear, so we decided to move that one ahead of Orange Middle School. So the Hyatt's track will be done this year. And we have taken the remainder of the money that had been allocated for the tracks and moved that into asphalt. As we've talked before, the asphalt budget always, especially after the winter, seems to want to climb up on us, and so we were able to take the remaining funds on the tracks and move into asphalt. The other thing with the costs that they came in at, we were only, we had scheduled to try to replace 2 maintenance vehicles. We're only be able to replace 1 maintenance vehicle, and we also replaced the district box trucks that were used for moving things around. We're able to partner with the Olentangy Music Boosters on that, as we're both looking for, they were looking for a second truck, and we wanted to replace ours. So we're able to get a nicer truck. Those are rather expensive, so usually that's something we try to buy used. And so partnering with them, we're able to get a little newer truck in a little better condition than what we have had in the past. And the last thing that you'll see as a change is we had projected maybe changing some small portions of roofing on Olentangy High School in Shanahan. That was the older rubber roofing. And again, getting through the winter and getting up there and really taking a hard look at that, we felt like those we can get some more time out of. And so we lowered the cost in the roofing, that we'll do about $20,000 worth of seam work to maintain the roofs and help extend the life is what we've been pretty good at trying to keep up on those, so we can get longer life out of our roofs. So we'll transfer the balance of that into asphalt as well, and then do the work on maintaining seams, gutters, and some of the flashing of things on the roof that's come loose. So that is the only changes from what you've seen. I think I've hit the big dollars. There's always those buckets I talk about. Each time I come up with the plumbing, electrical, and those are things we look at as we're moving down the list and get closer in. I know we've come in with a couple hot water domestic tanks that we have to replace. Boilers we'll have to replace in 2 buildings, so that's, as we've gone through the winter, those have come up, so that'll take care of the, eat up our plumbing cost, and then just our general HVAC mechanical repairs as well. There aren't any huge changes we're doing there other than small motors and different things that have come up. We will continue to do some interior painting and $25,000 on exterior, and then just general equipment throughout. I'm sure you don't want me to go through every item on the list, so I'll ask if you have any questions.
I have a question. So, why do we recommend taking the excess from the tracks and putting into asphalt versus other non-asphalt projects? Or maybe same thing said another way, are we pulling asphalt investments forward so it'll reduce the need in future years?
No, our asphalt's at a point where we're starting to see more and more wear, and the amount of asphalt we were scheduled to do was minimal. And as we,
It's 250,000, right?
It is now.
So we're playing catch-up on the asphalt.
we are playing catch-up on the asphalt. If you remember the life cycle we talked about previously had been a 10-year life, which we've now extended to a 15-year life, and we take our asphalt and divide that to do 1/15 a year is over $800,000 to be on a 15-year life cycle. So doing the $500,000 is still well below what we had projected and talked about in the fall being our life cycle for the PI levy. So that's,
And with oil at $40 a barrel, will we be able to get more done with this money than we had previously thought?
we would hope so. What we do with the asphalt is we always take last year's pricing and we project out based on our budget. And then we go below that, or I'm sorry, above that, and we do alternates. So then we can add alternates. So if it comes in low, we can add alternates, accept the alternates to take it up to the 500,000.
So offline, can I get the list of what's teed up for the 530,000?
Absolutely. It's actually just going out to bid next week. We have maps and all that. We can certainly share that.
I think sharing those maps would be helpful for all of you to see.
Yeah, it would be.
Just, like as an example, I think you showed me the one at maybe Oak Creek. And you can see with the aerial view about 12, you can't see it as well when you're in the parking lot, but when you look at it from above, you see about 12 different spots where their patches have occurred, and the way it looks, it's pretty startling that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
with the
I've said
asphalt.
this before, I just struggle with half of the summer investment being in parking lots. And what
Oh,
does that say
Yeah,
about our
I know that in
priorities?
the past, when I was on the facilities committee, we were putting off the asphalt so that we had money for other projects. So I can understand trying to play catch-up now.
Yeah, that 1/15th, and I had shown pictures previously when we were at 10 years, like Liberty at 10 years, the first time we did the planning going out 20 years. And kind of, if you can go to the buildings that were built 10 years ago and built 13, 14 years ago and drive through those parking lots, that gives you an idea of what we get on a 15-year life cycle. And that involves a lot of patching. And that goes to the other thing that we deal with on this is, we do a big section here. This is, I think, 3 years now, we're doing a big section of the main drive here at Olentangy. So by doing that patching, it's taken us 3 years to get that. But each time you move around, we try to hit the bad spots at all of the buildings in the main traffic areas first. You end up doing, they have mobilization costs. So our cost per square yard on the asphalt actually goes down when we're spending less like this because we're hitting several different buildings. A few years ago, we did all of Arrowhead, and our cost per square yard in Arrowhead was much better because they went in, it was a big project, they could mobilize and do that. The way that we jump around with this, and that's, I mean, it's just nature of the beast in this case that we're not doing enough huge projects all in one place, big enough at several locations. We're just doing smaller parts at each, but that does impact our cost per square yard because of the mobilization cost.
Doesn't postponing sometimes drive the cost up because then you have to take more down
Yes,
before you cap it?
Yes, we get into base issues and some of those, and we try to walk that line. We try to be prudent with what we're replacing, take it as long as we can, but get it before we get there, and certainly that is correct.
I have a couple questions. So when you skin a track down, it's a little off target, but when you skin a track down and you redo it, what's the life on a track at any of our schools when it's redone from ground up?
You should get around 8 or 9 years, and it depends on, again, you're doing tracks a lot of times with low bid. In this case, we may do some in state term. We didn't have good luck with the last company that we worked with, and we did low bid. And we do have a company local that does it that has state term. It's been negotiated pricing now. But the original track is you try to get 8 or 9 years on the original, and some of the companies will tell you should get another 8 or 9 years on the skim. We're probably more looking at 7 or 8. with that. And the cost, I think, that we had budgeted originally to top coat, that was $130. So we're saving $80,000 if we're able to keep it that budget.
I just want to point out, the reason we need to pay such close attention to these permanent improvements is because Upper Arlington is now looking at $178 million in facilities improvements. And that's going to, be in a bond that the voters are going to have to pay for. So if we spend the money now to make sure we're keeping the buildings that we have, making sure the boilers are working and we're replacing water tanks when they need replacing and not putting off things that we really shouldn't put off, hopefully we will never be in that situation. Because
Right, yes,
that's going to be a big chunk for them, and then Worthington will be next.
Yeah, and doing a lot of that preventive maintenance that we try to do
Yes.
within this budget, and that passing that permanent improvement budget was tremendous for the district. It's going to allow us to keep up with those things and keep the buildings new, because we are at a point where what once was new districts, now we've got a lot of districts that are moving into that 10 to 20 and even 15 to 22-year range. So that's like your house. That's when you start getting a lot of those repairs. You start looking at roofs and replacing windows or recaulking windows and doing seams on the roof and all of those general maintenance, same stuff you'd have at your house, replacing hot water tanks and different things. So,
Anything else? Thanks, Jeff.
thank you.
And item D, the planning for the fourth high school. What's next is the title of the slide. Show. And you got, I think we already have the policy.
Absolutely. What's next? That was such a great, I think, obviously we passed on March 15th. It was Tuesday evening at midnight. I think I got home, and by Wednesday at noon, I'd already been asked the question if redistricting was done.
Yeah, I saw the
And,
plans, I swear. Liar.
So what's next? Well, I'm going to start by letting Brian talk about the most important thing immediately is our financing, so.
Yeah, Mr. Rafe mentioned, we did pass on that Tuesday. We got together with our financing team on that Thursday already to start going over with our underwriters, our bond counsel, and our municipal advisor to go on, talk about the bond sale, because one of the key things about this whole thing is the construction manager at risk contract, the actual construction contract. We cannot sign that contract until we have actually sold the debt. So you really can't get going on a lot of things until we do it. So that's why we're coming at you this evening to approve the resolution to authorize to sell the bond. So we're going to come at you real quick to try to get this wrapped up so we can break ground and make sure we can open as we plan in the fall of 2018. We are tonight on the resolution is for the full, what was approved by the voters for $79.56 million. We will probably not issue all of that, or sell and issue all of that come June. We'll probably hold back about $5 million of that. But this gives us the authorization to go ahead and that way we won't have to come back at a later date for the other $5 million. We'll probably look to do the next $5 million probably about a year and a half from now. We have a potential, couple that with maybe a potential refunding that's around $4.5 million. So not very big. Like we mentioned before, we've done about much refunding that we can do. There's a little small portion that we can come next year. It's not per se in the money yet, but it may be at that time, and we would do that along with that. So we're already putting together the information for the official statement that goes out to the investors. Mark and I, and maybe Mr. O'Brien, will be at a bond rating meeting in presentations in New York on May 12th and 13th as part of the process. Currently, as you remember, we have the second highest rating, AA1 right now. We got a report from Moody's back in February when we did the refunding. They do ratings on 292 school districts in the state of Ohio. Only 5 of them have the highest one, higher than us, and then only 21 have the second highest that we're in. So with our overwhelming voter support in March, we are going to, of course, look to maintain our rating, but we're going to actually probably try to go for an upgrade and see if we can go for it. It's going to be a challenge. with, amount of debt that we have, with all the new buildings that we've had to issue debt for over the years. But we feel with the support that we have, it's worth going for. So, and then we'll have the bond sale on June 9th, and then at that point, we won't get the money probably another 2 weeks or so, but at that point, then we can be able to go ahead and sign the CMR contract, so.
So if you hold back some of the issue, how quickly can you respond if rates start to run? What's the lead time between?
Yeah, we can go pretty, we can see how fast we've gone now. By having that authorization from you guys from the board to have that, to go ahead and sell, we can probably, have a few months, it won't take that long to turn around. We'd have to go back and probably do another ratings type situation, but, and then you're kind of working with that schedule, but hopefully the turnaround won't be too bad. That's why I said we probably won't issue it all. The municipal advisors are going through and do like a rate risk analysis in this case. Here's what happens, if would it be better to issue it all now or wait a year and a half, and what would rates have to do at that point? Not to get into too many details, since we're under $10 million potentially next year, it's what's called bank qualified. So there's some advantages of that. Banks are now, typically if it's over 10, they're not really in the market to purchase that debt. This allows that and could drive their interest rates down potentially. So that's going to be factored in that too. So.
Yeah, because you got to balance out the fixed cost of issuance, right? 'Cause you pay them twice.
So. Plus, do we want to pay interest on something in a year that we're not technically not utilizing? So just balancing that out.
Cool. Very good. Which then will take us, the groundbreaking we have scheduled for June 9th, tentatively, pending all of your schedules. We're still finalizing that, but we would hope that we'd have a groundbreaking ceremony at the site and then come and do our board meeting, because as you know, our board meeting is scheduled for June 9th. So the very common question I get asked is, what's the name of the school going to be? Well, you all have Board Policy 7250 that speaks of commemoration of school facilities, and the first sentence clearly states that the Board of Education is responsible for naming school buildings and/or district facilities. So it will be before you as a board to pick the name of the school. We will of course have a process to gather community input, as we've done in the past, that our communications department will run that process, gathering community input, suggested names. I had quite a few already suggested to me. So we'll vet that process and pick a name for the school itself, as quickly as possible once we run that process. Just as an example, it says school buildings will have names based on local history or geography with no directional names, north, south, east, west. Mascot names are based on local historical figures or animals with no proper names or directional names. So that gives us a lot of leeway for naming our school and picking our school mascot and colors. I put on the slide that school mascot and colors would be decided at a later date, because I would offer as a suggestion in that process is, once we have redistricting done, that we could potentially involve students or additional community members, or let students who are going to be attending the school have more direct involvement in that process. So, that would be a potential suggestion along those lines. I must have dropped off redistricting because
The most important one.
probably the most important part of this, or the initial task that we'll have to start next school year will be our redistricting process, and we will run a process similar to have done in the past. We will have a redistricting committee. I don't anticipate at this point, from my preference, it being a wide open 250-member committee. I will scale it back and select members of the community who volunteer to be on the committee. One of our past chairs is here. I may be reaching out to past chairs to once again help us with that committee. It was so much fun. Last two times you did it, Mrs. Clark. Why not go for a third?
Third time's a charm.
You heard her. I think that was just affirmative. So it would be my hope that we will run that process. We'll run it throughout the first semester of next school year, and sometime early next spring, sometime between, or late winter, early spring, January to March, that we will have decided on the attendance boundaries for all four, the future attendance boundaries for all four of our high schools. Because as we've said all along, this will be a major redistricting that will affect potentially, and will affect all of our high schools. So obviously, there'll be a lot of involvement in that process. And ultimately, as we went through this process before, I'll pick a plan that I think works best for the future of our district. And if you have questions and want to jump in on anything or make comments as we go along, please feel free to do.
So no changes in redistricting for next year, for the 2016-17 year?
Correct. 16-17 boundaries will stay current, 17-18 boundaries will stay current, and then the new boundaries will take effect 18-19. But I could also foresee us thinking, if maybe we phase things in, as we go through that process, because high school is a completely different scenario to what we've done in the past. The last two redistrictings we've done, obviously this last one was just affected one middle school, primarily one middle school, and only two elementaries. The schools that were affected that received students from changes, there were more schools affected, but this one will potentially affect every school in the district, elementary, middle, and high. I will say one, and I've talked about this at coffee chats and community engagement events throughout the district. While we were on the levy campaign, somebody made the suggestion to me that we should basically erase all the lines and start from scratch. And there may be some validity in that, because as we've tried to piece things together over the years, as we've added places and maybe buildings not in ideal locations, we've created some attendance boundaries that just don't make sense. And I think, and sometimes when you have some preconceived notions, you build towards something. And if you start from scratch with a blank slate, you start with a clean mind and build forward. I don't have any, people like to already say to me, you already know what they are. Well, I think there are some that make sense, but again, I don't want to build towards something.
Are you pretty confident that the three existing schools will be able to handle the capacity until the fourth school's opened?
We said I did a presentation to the board 6 years ago, and we said the max capacity of our schools is 2,200. And in 18-19, in 17-18, Liberty scheduled to have 2,180 kids. And that's why it became so critical to pass in 18-19. So I'm confident we will handle those facilities without adding modular classrooms or those kind of things. We still may look at maybe a temporary, potentially a temporary fix. Just as an example, we got contacted again by the MRDD building by Orange Road in 23. They have some space available. So, they'd be willing to lease it to us at a low cost that we may possibly want to look at it for a short term and put a program there just to relieve some overcrowding. But we're still, discussing some of those options and really aren't. The principals are going through scheduling now. I'm more confident about them being able to handle the capacity sometimes than they are, because I don't live there every day with 2,100 high school kids. So, but we'll keep working our scheduling. Again, I don't think it's prudent to spend money to put modulars in those buildings when we can continue to make some adjustments in our schedules. So.
So you think that by spring break next year, we should have the boundaries set?
And I think it's important to give it to like in every redistricting, some people will accept it and realize that wherever they go, they're going to go to a great school. Some people will, if they get redistricted, want to move to make sure that they stay at the school they're currently at. So I really want to give the community as much time as necessary to make a decision about whether or not they want to do that. If they feel
about a year and a half, right?
right,
Yeah, 18
right.
months, yeah.
18 months. So that would be, I think, a reasonable goal to, I don't want anybody to feel like that's what they have to do, and I really hate that that's what, but, we have to assign students to our new school, because we're, again, significantly overcrowded at the current schools, so.
I have a question. You know, I know with the most recent redistricting, there's always the opportunity for parents to apply for a stay transfer or not transfer. How has that gone? And then in the future, I mean, what's your plan for number 4? Because there will, I'm sure, be a large number of people who will not want to go to the new school, and that kind of upsets, in my opinion, the process by which we are working.
Yeah.
It's two-parter. What's
and
happened since you?
So we've worked through the transfers at the high school and middle school level that were requested. We had very minimal high school requests this year. We did approve the high school request with the caveat that a future redistricting could make it affect them moving forward. So currently our policy says that it's good for 4 years. We did inform those families that if they're affected by redistricting, their interdistrict transfer would be rescinded. And so they were very minimal.
We had less than 20.
Total at all 3 schools. So we were able to accommodate those. The middle school ones, we were able to accommodate all the middle school transfers requests except for here at Shanahan because Shanahan's the most significantly overcrowded. We did have about 28 eighth graders who applied to stay here at Shanahan. 7th and 6th graders were fewer numbers, but you know, we're still examining the 8th graders, whether or not there's a way we can possibly accommodate them. Currently, we've told them right now, but now they're appealing our decision, which is prone to do. We like to say in Olentangy, no decision's ever final. So, you know, we're going to keep having that conversation. But the reality is at the 8th grade level right now, if we accept those transfers, it will cause us to add additional staff, and that's where we simply have to draw the line, is that when we have to add additional staff and we can accommodate them in other buildings, then we're going to have to go that route. Elementary transfers, that deadline is late in June because there's a lot more movement in elementary. We don't make the elementary transfer decisions till right at the end of July because as people move in, there's got to be seats where they move in. With regard to the future, we're preliminarily talking amongst ourselves with the athletic directors, and it's because so much of it is driven by that, or the band directors, those kind of things. They all want to stay in their programs. A lot of it will depend on who we hire in the new programs. Will dictate whether or not people want to stay or go and those kind of things. In the past, we have not approved interdistrict transfers at the high school level when we open a new school. If you're assigned, you're going, even though there's room in the school you're coming from because so many other people are going. And again, I think as we get closer through this and see how the redistricting process shakes out, we'll get more clear on where we want to go with that. My initial reaction, I did have a crazy idea at one point of drawing the lines, assigning the kids, and then opening it up and letting anybody go where they want to go. Just because I want people to go where they want to go. I want them.
Talk to Dublin about that.
1 year, one time. And the more I say it, the dumber it sounds. So.
About sports. So isn't there a rule with Ohio sports?
Yes.
If you can't play, you have to sit out a season?
Yes.
That doesn't apply when we open a school.
Right.
Okay.
So, so when we transfer kids from one school to the
But
other, that's
if
an
they're-
exception.
If they're getting transferred and they want to stay, but we've never allowed them to
Right.
stay, they would be impacted by that rule.
You would be penalized by staying?
By staying, yeah, but
could
we've never,
potentially.
yes, but we've never let them stay. And I've started a list of families that, when Orange opened, that were split, and they were the Lewises, the Grovers, I have this whole list, the Deeks, and it was fine.
We had a group of kids that were in the
great.
first Orange, graduating class from Orange that did a video. That is just, everybody needs to see it as we go
Yeah.
through this. And really, we need to find the kids that were at a school like Olentangy that stayed when Orange opened, because they got tremendous opportunities in their schools because so many other kids moved on. My own son is one in particular. He didn't play a down of football as a junior and got to play all the time as a senior because all the good players went to Orange. So,
Yeah, so I just want to make sure that people
yes,
realize.
I said my son wasn't a very
Did
good
you just
football player.
insult your son?
Yes.
Yes, he does it all the time.
did.
Pretty much.
But the family
So-
survived. Like, our valedictorian at Olentangy was Luke Lewis, and his sister was a great basketball player at Orange, you know, so they had the valedictorian, you know, at Olentangy and the great basketball player at Orange, and
Yeah.
I mean,
And I think-
now
I-
he's in med school and she's about ready to
I do
graduate
think,
college.
you know, again, we have to be careful about making broad statements about they'll be fine, they'll survive, because every family is in an individual. I think we're all going to make individual decisions that they think are best for them, and we have to remember of it from a big picture standpoint of how we most efficiently operate this school district, how we provide the best opportunities for kids. And all kids are different in regards to how they handle transitions, and I want to be respectful of that. We're still going to draw a plan. We're going to have kids in our fourth grade schools, so that will be the most difficult time. And it is a completely different dynamic with the new school in that when we opened Liberty, it was everybody's going to Liberty. They're all going together. And it was one school to two. It was pretty easy. When we did 2 schools to 3, and some of the kids were coming from Liberty, and some of the kids were coming from Olentangy to go to Orange, that was a little bit more difficult because it was 2 schools to 3. This will be more difficult because we'll be going from 3 schools to 4. So, you know, we'll have to consider how that goes, and conceivably, we'll send some kids to the new school, but we could also conceivably send some kids back into an existing school. So, you know, if we, just as an example, I don't want to give any indication, but where the land is and where the school will be built primarily is, that right now is in Olentangy's attendance zone. So it's conceivable to think that most of the kids currently assigned to Olentangy could conceivably be assigned to the new school. The decision will be as we pull, because we have to pull kids out of Liberty and we have to move kids out of Orange, we will have to decide, do we send them to the new school or do we send them to Olentangy? You know, the rumor, you know, it will be difficult to send people to Liberty in any way because it's so overcrowded, and the same at Orange. So if wherever we pull the most out of, that's what we'll get backfilled into. So it'll be a completely different dynamic.
At the middle school, you'll have more splits,
Right.
which is a change that.
Right. Well, and again, that's a philosophical change. Right now, we have one split middle school, Berkshire, and I will say, I don't know that since it's only one of our 5, we don't focus a lot of time and energy and attention to the intricacies of a split middle school. But conceivably, we will have more. So a decision I think we'll have to make in the process is, do we force all 5 middle schools to split and feed multiple schools? And I might argue that makes sense, so that you don't have advantageous athletic relationships at one middle school that feeds the school over another. So that'll be a philosophical discussion we'll have to have maybe with our redistricting guidelines as we look at them. And that's doable, though. So.
Mrs. Clark hasn't left yet, so you haven't scared the you-know-what out of her.
So, again, I'm confident, when this is all said and done, the one thing I am most confident about is that all of our kids will be attending great schools. That I know for sure. So, after redistricting, we'll get quickly into the hiring timeline. We will bring our new principal online March of 2017. We'll have that filled, because then that person, with the support of our central office team, will lead the hiring of all the other personnel. Typically, we hire the athletic director late in that spring, so that they're prepared to start the next school year, getting all of their coaches in place and all of their, team equipment and just all the things that come with running 28 varsity sports. We bring the head custodian and the school secretary on. They'll be hired in August, but they'll begin working in January of 2018. We'll run the internal transfer process because most of the staff will be coming internally, except for some specific unique positions that are unique to a school. Most of the staff will be internal transfers as we shift kids. So that'll happen early in October, so we know where we then have to backfill, and then any leftover external hiring will happen between January and May.
I have a question on that. I know Todd, when we hired Todd, he was housed at Olentangy. Do you think they'll be housed at Olentangy?
Is that broom closet still available?
Really? That's what it
We're
was.
in?
No windows. It was,
Housed is a loose term.
yeah.
You know, that's so, I mean, all of our facilities are so, I mean, when I worked in Westerville and did that job, I was in an elementary school. So we'll find, ideally, we'll find the most, and I think part of it could end up being where we, how
Have
redistricting
space.
works out. You want to have the most access to kids. In that one, it made sense to house them at Olentangy because most of the kids were coming from Olentangy. You know, a smaller percentage came from Liberty to Orange's first few classes, so.
Now, we'll see this in the next 5-year forecast, right?
Yes.
This incremental staffing coming, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's already in there. So, I provided you with a document about, in your supplemental materials, it was a timeline broken down from, you know, this summer of the things, or after we hire the principal. So when I talk about the events of 2017-18, that's what I would be referring to. That principal would be responsible for, you know, starting to build the culture of the school, to work with all the different support organizations and the community partnerships. And I have on the slide just the nuts and bolts, but it gives you a list of all the different types of activities. And we're fortunate that Mr. Meyer is very detail-oriented and kept a very detailed list of all of the things he did in order to open Orange. So he's going to be a great resource for our new principal in that regard. So I just wanted you to have that list of all the different types of things that principal will be working on throughout the course of that year. It is extensive. Having done it myself, also, it's more stressful than running the building when the kids get there. So that's a big undertaking. So, and then any questions for me? I'll come back at the end, but I'm going to turn the next part of the presentation over to Mr. Runyon to talk about construction.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. It's been quite a while since I've presented to the board because we've been on hiatus a little bit. Personally, thank you. It's first time I've presented to you since both of my sons have graduated from Olentangy, and they're a testament to what you folks represent in the community as a whole. They're doing great in their academic studies beyond, and thank you from our family. So, jumping into this, and I'm going to ask if we can at least take off the the height. Thank you. I understand. There you go. Oh, read a little bit better. I'm just going to give you a, as brief as I can be, view of the school and where we're at and where we're going in the next couple of months here. Your site is on Berlin Station Road. It's in the north central section of the district. It's 84 acres. You've owned that since 2003. So we've been working with that and working with all of the county agencies and the utilities here the last 4 months since we were brought on in December. And things have certainly sped up since last month's bond issue passage. There is, one of the first things that's impacting this site is right along the, let's see, where's your pointer here, Mark? That one? There it is, there we go. Right here along the east side of your property line, we've been working with the county, a county request for an easement for the future Pyatt Road extension. Pyatt Road currently ends down at Cheshire Road, which is about a half mile as the crow flies from your site on Berlin Station. And from a planning of the building standpoint, it's kind of a win-win. Berlin Station's not a vastly improved road. You folks don't want to get into improving Berlin Station Road. So working with the county on the Pyatt Road extension and planning that into the eastern boundary of your property is a great thing to do. Berlin Township trustees and Berlin Township certainly wanted the building to face east and to face onto the new Pyatt Road extension here. So this is where the building, after a couple of different site studies, has landed for its placement on the building. It's a north-south orientation. It's the same orientation as Orange High School is. Liberty High School was the original, Orange High School was a mirror image of this. This is an exact replica in terms of the placement on the site of what Orange High School is. You'll know when you turn right in Orange that you're turning right in the new building. That's something we always have to remember when I go back and forth between Liberty and Orange. The majority of the parking for the building will be towards the front or the east of the building here. The main entry is right here. That was a request coming from administration and how they want to deal with and control students and visitors to the building during the school day. So that drove a lot of the placement of where that building could go. This also, from the topography of this site, this is a very flat site. This area of the county is very, very flat. And the northern portion of the site is and this is a relative term here, the high portion of this site. So we always want to have the building up and dry. And so this helps us keep it up and dry. And it helps us with our utilities as well. It's a similar setup to Liberty and Orange in terms of circulation 306 degrees around the building. It's a large building. Fire departments really like that. It helps them with their emergency planning. It also splits off your bus traffic along the west side. That's very similar to what you have at Orange and also at Liberty. And then your parent drop-off here at the front door. And what we envision is staff parking here to the south of the building between the competition field and the building itself.
So Bruce, would you imagine that the majority of bus traffic would come off of the new Pyatt?
After that is open, yes, I would imagine that would, and in talking again with administration and with the business department, they would imagine that most of that traffic would as well. The county and the township were very particular about where they wanted to have access off of Berlin Station Road in this location here, and that works for the school district as well. We also, because of the topography and how the building lays itself out here and how the site lays itself out, the other driving factor other than where to place the building was where the storm water would go on this. Again, it's a very flat area. The storm water needs to go to the south. This site, as just about any site in this area of the district, does not have a dedicated stormwater outlet. It's not like it empties into a stream, much like Orange did. That was very, very dedicated there. This does not, and there's very few areas in this area of the district that does. It's just very, very flat. So the stormwater needs to end up down at the south end of our site in what will be a wet stormwater detention pond. This is similar to what you have at Liberty. You have one at Orange. It's not as visible. It was there and existing at Orange when we built Orange High School. You also have one at Olentangy High School. A facility this size, it's just almost always a big wet pond in regards to this. We're keeping it away from the building as far as we can because we don't want the kids on a day-to-day basis around it. And also, we have to release that stormwater to our south. And that stormwater will end up going into what is called the Glenmead development. And that is the housing development that will be developed to the east of Cheshire Elementary School. It's about 1,000 feet south of our south property line there. So our stormwater will make its way into the stormwater management system of that, and that continues to then move south. Our other major utilities also will be coming out of that development. That's where our sanitary sewer resides, and that's where the water line resides. Had the economy maybe kept going through the second half of the 2000s and into the first half of this decade, maybe more of this may have been developed. It's unfortunate that there wasn't that much development in this end of the district, so there's not as much utility development maybe as the district would have foreseen in 2003 when the site was bought. So we're having to do a lot of work with the utility companies and the county in regards to how and where those utilities are coming. So that's a big part of what we've been doing the last 3 months. And then it was putting the pieces of the need here of the rest of the facility into place. The competition field with the track and the football stadium, this is much like the football stadium that is at Orange, Liberty, and Olentangy High School. Pardon me? The stadium, thank you. It's just the stadium. Tennis courts here, again, similar layout to what you have at the other high schools with track, with the track field events here outside the stadium. And then we have the softball and the baseball fields here, the competition softball and baseball here, practice facilities here, and then you have 4 practice fields here. The parking count was a big concern because of at Orange, we were so landlocked, we were very limited how much parking we could do. Orange has, just for reference, a total of 761 parking spots, and 550 of those are in that main lot in the front. This facility has 881 everyday parking spots, and those are in this main lot and this lot to the south. And then for event parking, we can also overstripe here. That also, quite honestly, can be used during the school day, and that would bring the parking total to a little more than 1,000 spaces on that facility. And that is right there when you look then at Liberty High School and Olentangy High School. It's very close to what those 2 facilities also have. So we were able to increase that parking with this. And again, yes, I'm sorry.
So do the kids have to go in front of the parent drop-off to go from their car to the building?
Yes, but that's similar, quite frankly, in
What they do now.
the
I
other
don't know how it
buildings
works
at Orange.
Yeah, it's how it works at Orange now.
Is there like an they just?
No, they just watch.
No,
it.
we
Yeah.
will be developing in this, as we get further in and further detailed, we'll be developing those pathways with that. Yeah, that's always an issue of where do you park the students and how do you cross them over, and it's almost impossible to never have them cross a driveway to get over to the front of the building. Because
Kids are usually good about it. Mindy, it's the parents who are in a
parents.
hurry
It's
and
the
want to double
parents.
dip around it that are the problems.
I think I'm just we can come back to anything you'd like, but I think that we'll just keep going here. And I apologize, this seems to have washed out some. This is, again, the building is based off of Orange High School. And it is, though not a strict replication of Orange High School. Orange High School was a very strict replication of Liberty High School, except for its orientation. It was within 3 years of the completion of Orange High School when you started planning it, and the district liked that model and said, that's what we want, we don't want to change it. Here you said, we want to do some modifications to this building. You're 10 years from the design of Orange High School now with this high school. You're facing some building code changes that affect the building that you have no choice but to update. But then there's been a lot of discussions that started in December regarding the educational programming of this building. And you had a unique, you were in a unique position having 3 former principals of this style of building in Mr. Rafe, Mr. Wright, and Mr. Meyer to guide us in regards to what they viewed as the real strong points of the building and the points that they felt could use some improvement, as well as then Mr. Fetty looking at the educational programming of what you're doing throughout the district and how could we improve the high school to do that. So I want to walk you through that quickly, and again, I'll take any questions as we go along. The big white areas are the things that you're not seeing a lot of changes in, but all the colored areas are items that you will see a significant amount of changes in as we go through the building. The biggest changes are in the academic end of the building, the academic wings. Again, this is the 2-story academic wings of the building, and then you have basically the 1-story activity wings of the building that connect to each other right here. And there was a lot of discussion about improving the connection and the student movement from the academic wings into the activity wing of the building. We looked at probably 4 or 5 different schemes of how to do that. We were very conscious of not wanting to add square footage so we don't impact the budget in regards to that. And in the end, after looking at all those schemes, we came up with a scheme that was able to shift the 1 science room and the study hall, general classroom area, and we shifted some of the other support spaces of elevator, teacher space, copying space, general storage, and we widened this corridor from about 18 feet to almost 30 feet wide. So by tweaking the corners, moving things around, adjusting the structure, that's going to make a huge difference in the student movement in this area. We also are changing and modifying the entry into the media center, and I'll talk about the media center itself in a minute, but we're modifying the entry into the media center because that's become a real hub for students to gather and
It's a
talk,
bubble now.
even during the classroom change, which is chaos. So in doing that and moving and changing the stairwells that are on each side of that media center going to the second floor, we are giving the students an area where they can do that, but they're out of the main circulation path of the rest of the students. So that is going to increase that circulation as well in that area. The other biggest change in this, in the facility is the addition of a collaboration space, a flexible collaboration studio in each one of the academic wings. And I'm going to blow that up for you in a minute so you don't have to strain your eyes so much. We'll do that in all 4 of the academic wings, so there's 2 on each floor of that. It is taking the space of what was, when Liberty was designed, a dedicated computer lab. But you're not teaching that way anymore. So you used to have 4 dedicated computer labs in the academic wing. That's not how you're teaching, so that's the programming change. And your media center specialist at Orange had started taking surveys of her staff in Orange High School a couple of years ago about how could they better use their media center. And the number one issue, it just so happened, was they wanted more collaboration space for the students, more flexible collaboration space that's open to the students all day long, be it for a single kid, a group of 2, a group of 4, a group of 12. Someplace where they can go and do different projects, more self-directed learning, but still be in the academic area where teachers can have some level of supervision with them. It is a concept that is very big in K-12 design, and we pushed pretty hard back with administration and with your teaching staff on, are you doing this because it's a fad, or are you doing this because it's really how Olentangy wants to teach and educate the high school kids? And that's really the answer that kept coming back, and it was a nice unexpected clarification or agreement of that the Orange staff had been talking about this and really pushing for that well before we started any design on this redesign on the building. So that's affecting 4 major classrooms here. It's also in this regrouping. The other thing that educational programming was telling the district and telling us was, the more smaller spaces you can give us, the better off we are, because you have a lot of smaller groups doing a lot of things. Special ed, you'll have some smaller breakout groups of special ed of any sort of class, any sort of academic that you'd have. So we were able to also create another small group learning room at the end of those academic wings. So there's 3 of those in each academic wing now, for a total of 12 in the academic wings of the building. So we see a lot more flexibility as we move through the building here now. The media center, this is something we're not that far on yet. The media center is going to change because your media centers and how they're using them are changing. We're not going to have, you're not going to see the typical stacks of books in rows and rectangular tables with chairs around them. And again, your media center specialist at Orange High School has already started moving that way. You go in that library and you'll see that they've started just bits and pieces of different furnishings and allowing students to move that around and move around in different groups. And that's what I foresee, that the media center, while I don't see the walls changing, I see the approach and the technology and the electrical hookups in that room changing quite a bit. And so that will be continued here the next 2 months as we move towards completion. As we move into the activity wing of the building, one big change was right here in the music suite of the building. You have the large instrumental music room, and then you have the medium-sized vocal room, and that's what Orange and Liberty have on both. And then you had a series of storage and support spaces in between those. They've really asked for a redesign in this area because the orchestra program has continued to be very strong throughout the district, and they wanted a 3rd teaching space very badly in that. They understood that we couldn't give them any extra square footage, so this has been flip-flopped around, and basically we gutted the walls and then put a design back together where they got a 3rd music teaching space in that area. And what impressed me was your teaching staff was very cohesive and said, well, you know, I don't always have to have my band where I'm teaching 20 kids, I can use your smaller room, so when you've got your 60 kids in orchestra, you're coming over here to the band room and doing that. I think this is truly a music suite, and they'll use those rooms for whatever size, for whatever function dictates the size. I think that's what's going to drive it. And I commend our staff for being able to do that. We're adding lockers to the building in these corridors here. Those lockers had been added the past 4 or 5 years here at both Orange and at Liberty due to the student growth. And so we now have a total of 1,800 lockers in that building, as well as Orange and Liberty, and also, I believe, at Olentangy High School as well. So those corridors here is where that's being added into. The central area of student services, guidance, and administration is shuffling spaces around to allow for 2 big improvements. The school district very much wanted to create at the main entry here an attendance office and a security vestibule for better monitoring and security of comings and goings of visitors and students during the school day. So once your kids all get in the morning, the building will go on lockdown, including the intervestibule doors on this. Our attendance office is moving from, originally it was envisioned here at the bus entry. It is moving from this location to here, which is currently the ticket booth. It will share space basically with that ticket booth. We're taking a little bit of the space of the vestibule to have a proper sized office. And that'll be much like the security vestibules at Hyatt's and at Berkshire Middle School, where you're locked in that vestibule until you're buzzed in by the office staff, and they can hold you in there as long as they desire to check you out. They will have great visibility. I have a rendering of what that is starting to look like as well, so you can see that a little bit better as well. With that, it opened up this space, and then it was a domino effect. Working with the administrators, they really wanted to have a business classroom that would be attached to the school store. Your school store has always been in a great spot here in the commons area. It serves that serves as the lobby for the gymnasiums, serves as lobbies for the auditorium area. And what was missing was we never wanted to give up the square footage in the administrative office for a business classroom. With this move, we're able to shift that around and make that happen. And then we're also modifying, again, another program change, program that went by the wayside a few years ago with the bigger advent of digital photography. Was the physical darkroom is no longer part of the program, and that is basically another art graphics, computer graphics lab for the art department and for the building in that area. The athletic physical education area of the building, quite frankly, there weren't a lot of changes. Your athletic directors, we met with all of them. They were really, they like what they have. So it was more just moving doors. Can we do a better job of securing off this hallway from the public when we have competitions that we don't want the public down this hallway and want it for athletes only? We were able to move those things around. They were asking for, and we're taking all of the gang showers in the male locker rooms and making them individual showers, and some of them we're lowering the number because of the use and making better use of that room as storage areas. And then also in the physical education gymnasium, and this is more striping of the gymnasium floor and moving of basketball backstops, they wanted to have another 94-foot long court, which is what the main competition court is in the gymnasium. So when you have a tournament, they can have 2 90-foot 4 courts going, as well as the original 2 84-foot long courts for the physical education facilities during the day. So it worked pretty well from that standpoint.
Bruce, I have a question.
Yes.
What about the, just as my experience at Orange, is the training room? We have
Yes.
more athletes playing, we have more athletes with injuries, and that training room is the size of a closet.
Mm-hmm.
Was there anything put into the idea of expanding the size of those training rooms so those kids can get treatment in a room as opposed to a hallway?
The training room has been, what the ADs wanted to do is what they ended up doing at Orange, was they put a door into this, and this has actually become now a supplemental training room, adjacent to the original training room.
Well, that's
And
Orange,
they'll
that
take
just
that
happened
out.
recently with Orange,
Right.
though, right? They
Right,
went
that
through
just
that
happened,
wall
I think,
and
last
expanded
summer with Orange. And so that's the improvement they wanted to do there. They weren't willing to give up more locker room space for that, and I think what they're doing is taking that space over and making that more training. It's not just training tables, but it's also more of the training equipment that they're putting in
Yeah,
there and
rehab.
and rehab
Right,
equipment,
right, right.
exactly.
Good.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. Second floor modifications, and again, I apologize, this is just washed out too much. The second floor is pretty straightforward. Again, the collaboration space improvements in each one of the academic wings. Over the years, your science program has continued to evolve and have more and more students involved in that for longer. So both buildings have taken over classrooms, general classrooms of science. While we can't build 4 more science rooms the size of full science labs, you also don't need them. The rooms are fine. What they wanted to do was change the casework around and get at least water in them. And so we're taking over these 4 classrooms for general science, more of the lower level science programs. At the 9th and 10th grade level will be in those locations, and that's going to help the building as well. And then the big change here is, again, for the plea for yet a bigger collaboration space in the academic wing. So what we're doing, this is the only place you've added any square footage, and we're taking advantage of the 2-story space that is in the media center now, and in half of that, we're putting a floor level in and creating about an 1,800 square foot collaboration space. That's going to be very flexible. It's about the size of 2 classrooms in any of the high schools right now. And your staff is envisioning that for constant use at a variety of purposes. It'll be the messy room, okay? It's not going to be carpeted. It's going to be VCT. It's going to have water in it. We'll put in double the amount of electrical and technology in that room. And it will be the messy room for just about about anything you can throw at it. The music department was excited about it and wanted a space like that that's bigger than a general classroom, and where they could have a recital when you don't need to put it in an 800-seat auditorium. The academics was also wonderful, really liked a space like that for just presentations for about 2 classrooms where you'd have a speaker, or after-hour speaker, or after-hour groups that want, again, access to that size of room. So this is going to be a big improvement for the building as well. In general, you're looking at building updates, though, that affect the whole building. First off is building code has changed, and in 2010, our buildings had to become more energy efficient in Ohio. So we have to follow suit here. Not that Orange and Liberty aren't energy efficient, it's just now code mandates them being more. So we are redoing the exterior walls 360 degrees around. We have to come up with a new design so we can put more insulation into our exterior walls. This is good news. While it's going to cost more initially to do that, it's also, though, going to pay off for you. You'll have better insulated walls as the building goes forward. So this building should be more energy efficient yet from what you have at Orange and at Liberty. We're also doing major HVAC redesign throughout the whole building here. You have what is called a fan-powered VAV system that has served the district very well in your new construction for quite a while. The trend has been to eliminate the fans in those. The controls have gotten more better to control a non-fan powered. So we are redesigning the HVAC system to go to what's called a non-fan powered VAV system. What that does for you, it's going to have a lower cost initially because we're not buying fans in all these VAV boxes which serve each classroom, but it also is going to save you energy for the life of the building because you're not spending electric to run fan motors. And we've probably got 120 VAV boxes in this building. So that's going to be a big contribution to energy efficiency to this building as well. And that was one of the driving forces of doing that. Electrical, there are certainly electrical revisions that have to happen. The 2 biggest ones, one's a code change with how a fire alarm system is, and this just changed here in Ohio in the last 3 months. You'll still have some places where we'll have horns that will make your ears just about bleed, but you'll also now have an emergency voice system that will direct you in a human voice to get out of the building and where to go with that. That's a new code update. The other big update is that we're trying to achieve is we're redoing all the lighting throughout the building, changing from fluorescent lighting to now LED lighting. That will be somewhat price dependent because prices of LED lighting have come down quite a bit, but still not at the same price of what fluorescent is. So we're still working on that and how we get that accomplished throughout the building. And then technology, it's just about a brand-new technology system. What I see here and what we've talked with the technology group so far is that this is going to be a building that has Wi-Fi on steroids to allow anytime, any device, anywhere kind of learning and connectivity. That's just where everything is headed. So to help afford that, we're not going to be putting as much stuff in the walls that you've seen at the other buildings. So we're taking data out of the walls, we're putting it in a wireless port. There will be a wireless port in just about every classroom throughout the building and more of them. So that is something that we're still in the design phase of and moving that forward. And then just some views here real quick. The learning communities, this is that academic wing collaboration area. So it will be open to the corridors. We're changing the entries into the classrooms to double doors for teacher supervision, but also to allow this to communicate back and forth with kids much easier than the single door. I see the furnishings in this being very flexible and movable and different than what you're going to have in your classrooms most likely. And then here is that third special ed, or not special ed, the third small group area that can be used for just about any sort of grouping you want to throw at it. This is a rendering of the community collaboration flexible learning studio on the second floor above the media center, coming off of the current corridors here, as well as a view down into the media center as it stands today. We're going to put some windows in this second floor space that will be borrowing light from the windows at the media center, so they'll still have a sense of natural light and what's going on in the daytime in that area. And then this is the attendance office and security vestibule that's created at the front door. Here's the office doors, here's the exterior door. This is where the ticket booth is, and we're expanding this out to create that security vestibule where visitors will be locked in here until they're buzzed in and then released out into the building. And the exterior looks a lot like what you currently have, because that's what we've been happy with. That's what we're moving towards for that. So, thank you for your patience. I'm open to any questions you might have on it. In general, here's our timeline. Go, go, go. Every day, go, go, go. We have committed, and when you brought us on in December, we gave you a timeline that we would have complete documents done by the end of June for this building. That is what we're on target for still. We've been working with the CM at risk that you've hired, Gilmaine, and they are getting fully indoctrinated into where we're at, and we are currently working with them to actually take the Orange High School documents, even though there's changes, and bid them to try to get the interest in the construction community. You've always had a great interest in building your buildings because you've always treated your contractors very fair, and you delivered a good product, and they knew that you were, when you said it would be done in June, it would be done in June. They wouldn't be dragging on until August to do that. We want to recapture that because we've kind of been on a hiatus here for 6 years in regards to that. This is already generating a lot of buzz in the construction community. If Gilbane gets this out, and they're planning on doing that starting next week, to start some preliminary pricing in the contracting community and hopefully lock in some bidders for us when we complete the documents, we'll do that. We're also pushing to try to get the permitting and get the site design done earlier in June so we could start that sooner if that's at all possible. There's a lot of permitting to do with that, so that's not a promise I can make, but that's what our goal is with everybody we're talking to and pushing on that. Any questions? Yes.
Extra question for you, Bruce. Appreciate the update on, this Wi-Fi on steroids and things like that. I appreciate the security vestibule and all the things to make it better for the kids. But are there any other things you're going to be putting into this to improve overall building safety for the kids and for the staff? Anything related to what you're going to specify into buildings or anything, because a lot of what we do now is based on training, awareness, and some other things. But are there any other built-in pieces that are going to go into this new high school that are going to help with that?
I think one of the biggest things that we'll do is we have not yet had the discussions with just about the security system that's in the building and the access controls into the building. And that technology's come a long way since we've done Orange and Liberty as well. So that is something that's still on the list that we are going to be doing here in the next couple of weeks with the staff, as well as you've done a lot of modifications to your initial closed-circuit TV security system, so we know that, and we'll be incorporating those changes from Orange and Liberty and Olentangy into this system that we'll be doing here. From a material standpoint, not thinking that much in regards to that. We haven't had any discussions towards that yet. The biggest change was that getting that attendance office moved up, getting that secure entry during the school day there, and then I think you'll see some other security improvements with where and how we do the access controls into the building and out of the building.
Okay.
Open to any suggestions that people would have of it too.
Don't know that I have specific, I mean, I just appreciate that thought process that goes into that, you know, for different ways to allow individual teachers to provide something extra in a classroom, you know, barricading doors and all the things that go through in the ALICE training, that's wonderful, but there are also some other, I don't know if it's an appurtenance or something like that that can be part of this process. And you may not be at that time frame yet, I just, again, you know, I'd like to think that this community is safe, we provide a safe environment for the kids, but it's not those folks we typically have to worry about.
No, it's not.
It's other people.
And I'd caution you, and you've heard a lot about this in Ohio, the barricades that you can put on doors in Ohio is a very hot topic. They have not come out with any straight guidelines yet from the building code and from the fire departments on what they will accept. And so a lot of places have bought and done things, and they have to come right back out right now.
I'm just
Until that
concerned
hot
about
topic
awareness
gets
right
settled,
now.
it's
As long as
not
we're aware,
awareness.
that's great.
Yeah. I'm getting hooked, so thanks for your patience.
Thank you.
Anything else? Frank, thanks, Bruce, very much.
Not at all. So there we are, leading up to our June 9th groundbreaking. A lot to do. Looking forward to working with Bruce and his team, and great confidence that we will have it on time, ready to go for the 2018-19 school year. Any other questions?
I think it seems covered very well.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was gonna, Devin, would you get the light? Yeah, thank you. Okay. All right, our second session of public participation, do we have any requests?
There is none.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move right to treasurer action items. Mr. Curran, if you would present, please.
Yes, there is action items A through E, and in the spirit of Mr. White, there is one of them we do want to pull out. Number A, or letter A, please.
Cost them lunch.
Unprovoked.
I'd like to recommend treasurer action item A, approve board meeting minutes for February 25th and March 10th, please.
So moved.
Second, please.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Please take the roll.
Mrs. Fiesel,
Yes.
Mrs. Patrick,
Yes.
Mr. Bartz,
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien,
Abstain.
and Mr. King.
Yes, and that motion passes 4-0 with a one absent, can't pronounce it. One abstaining.
Abstention.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to find.
And then I'd like to approve treasurer action items B through E. B, approve financials for February 2016. C, approve amend to FY16 appropriations at the fund level. D, approve donations to the district. And E, approve resolution authorizing the issuance of bonds in amount not to exceed $79.56 million.
A motion to accept, please.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
The
I'm
only
sorry, go ahead.
discussion, the 79,560 is the Fourth High School, plus a bunch of buses,
Right.
plus a bunch
Plus
of roofs.
academy.
Academy
There's capital
building.
improvements in there as well, so I don't want people to think the Fourth High
That's
School is going
right.
to cost 79,560.
Right.
There's capital improvements in addition to Fourth High School.
Yep, and the academy.
And the academy.
And the academy, thank you, I knew it was
On the ballot.
Mhm.
Okay, please call the roll.
Mrs. Fiesel,
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien,
Yes.
Mrs. Patrick,
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes, so B through E passes 5-0. And Mr. Rafe, please.
I'd like to present superintendent action items A through G for approval.
Have a motion, please.
So
So moved.
And a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion on these items?
Yes, I want to discuss item F, because there's going to be some, because I sit on the Career Center School Board as well, and we're doing contract manager at risk, same as we're doing here. But for the, I will vote in favor of hiring the, what do you call it? Our owner's rep for here. We are not going to do an owner's rep for the Career Center, because we have a different situation here, so I don't want people to think that I'm misspending money here and cutting back money there. But it's a totally different, we're doing a renovation, we have different staffing, so I just want to make that clear to people.
And I think it would be worth mentioning, because of the name of the company, Construction Analysis, that is Bill O'Sullivan. And I think it would be worth mentioning that because of his deep and broad experience with our district, with a lot of facilities, and he'll bring a lot of talent and efficiencies and knowledge to the process. So I just want to make sure that people knew that. Any other items?
Yeah, E. I just had I wanted to clarify that amount seems very low to me, so is it just, it's not any grass cutting or anything, is it?
No, that is just to remulch all the flower beds in the district and other playground areas.
Okay,
Really just augments existing staff.
Correct.
gotcha, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, good point. Any other items to discuss? If you call the roll, please.
Mrs. Fiesel,
Yes.
Mrs. Patrick,
Yes.
Mr. Bartz,
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien,
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes. So the superintendent action item is passed 5-0. And our last item is to, per the Ohio Revised Code, to go into executive session for the purpose of employment of public employees. Also, for the purpose of conferences with attorneys considering pending or imminent court action. And thirdly, matters required to be kept confidential pursuant to state or federal law. So if we may have a motion, please, to go into executive session,
So moved.
and a second.
Second?
Any discussion of that? Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Bartz,
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien,
Yes.
Mrs. Fiesel,
Yes.
Mrs. Patrick,
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes, and the motion to go into executive passes 5-0. We will come back to this room only for the purposes of officially adjourning the meeting, so there'll be no further action. You don't need to feel like you got to sit around for adjournment. But thank you for your attendance.